What's up, Martians? So today I had an invigorating conversation on Instagram in the DMs related to the topic of boundaries, what they are, the stigmas that come from boundaries, because anyone who sets them is automatically deemed as unlikable or evil or wahaha, all the other things. And anyone who knows me knows that I'm very big on boundaries. You know, boundaries are the things that protect you as a person so that you can be the best version of yourself. People need to stop looking at them as these things that cut people off and realize that if you have to set a boundary that protects you and the things that you're working towards, if a person decides that that's you cutting them off, that's a them problem. Because instead they should be saying, you know what, I celebrate that you want to take this next chapter and put yourself in a better position. And if what we have or what we've been doing is not conducive to that, then let me give you the space to do what you need to do, because that is true love. That is true caring about someone, even if it's not a relationship. That could even be a business partnership. If you feel like, hey, you want to go this way in business and your business partner is not going the same way, you're giving that person permission to be the best version of themselves. And so I don't get people's lack of understanding about boundaries. Like, one of the things that I discussed when I was talking to the person today, or the people today essentially, is how there's this superficial idea of self-care, right? Everyone's always like, oh, self-care, self-care, self-care Sunday, self-care Saturday. But it's become this like hyped up, promotable type of thing. And I say it's superficial because when someone actually has to take self-care, which putting boundaries into place is a part of your personal self-care. When someone has to do their own personal self-care, again, going back to what I said earlier with societal pressures to not be this person, they're deemed as, oh, you're being selfish, or you're not, being the best version of yourself for this interaction. No, I'm setting a boundary because this is what I need to be functional for my purpose. People don't recognize that you're literally on this earth to do something with yourself based on your purpose. And we have the luxury of having other people interact with us because God did not want us to be just operating an island unto ourselves with this, with our mission papers. But we both, as the people who have to set the boundaries and people who have to accept people's boundaries, we have to stop believing that things can't change. And that part of things changing is so that the people who are around you can be the best versions of themselves, can be in that purpose. It's actually selfish to think otherwise. Anyway, I digress. I'm rough around the edges, and perhaps I'm well received or perhaps I'm not. I mean, this is just my opinion. You can always scroll to another page, but I hope that you're really taking it in, the things that I'm saying, because I'm speaking from a place of experience. If you have never been a person who has to put boundaries into place, or had to listen to someone put a boundary in place that separates you from their next chapter, then maybe you're not in a headspace to understand or receive this. But I hope that whatever I'm saying to you, that some kind of way it speaks to your spirit, because you don't recognize, if you don't understand the importance of boundaries, and as you're going to hear AJ say, living in those boundaries. It's not enough to just set a boundary and then be lackadaisical about it in the aftermath of it. If you don't know how to live in your boundaries and put yourself in a position to see things clearly as it relates to people, as it relates to situations, then you're shortchanging your life. You're shortchanging your business, which means you're shortchanging your money. You're shortchanging your social opportunities to be in new spaces and around new people, not because you want to take a S dump on the people who got you to where you are right now and where you're headed, but because every single thing has a season, and sometimes those seasons are just not forever, no matter how much we want them to be. I believe that TV, and definitely fairy tales and cartoons, perhaps because of the consistency of seeing the same faces on those type of like TV shows and movies and things, it warps the mind to think that I have always got to be around these same exact people all the time, and that the only way that I can be successful is in this one little orbit. when the most successful people, if you take it away from the spiritual and just think of it in the natural, right? You think of the secular success of people. Those people very rarely stayed in the same circles. I don't know if they took dookie dumps on the people from their past. I don't believe in taking dookie dumps on the people from your past that have gotten you there. I believe in having very candid conversations, or if you subscribe to what many of my even current friends do, we recognize that our lives are not intertwined with each other to the point where we have to suffocate each other with interaction on a regular basis. We use WhatsApp and we message each other when we have a moment, probably more often than we usually do because of, the whole pandemic that we went through in 2020. But yeah, we don't really, we're very hyper focused on making sure that we're being the best version of ourselves. For many of them, I don't have children, but for many of them, it's so they can be the best version of themselves for their family. And many of the nuggets of wisdom that I try to impart upon my Martians in this galaxy is related to either what I've experienced personally or what I've seen people in my orbit experience. And so I'm trying to give these nuggets of wisdom to say, listen, I understand why you think these things and why it's probably got you warped. And you keep asking yourself why you're not having certain levels of success, why things are not going to, the levels that you want. And in all honesty, you have to really just look inside yourself and say, am I in the position that I need to be to get the things that I want with the people that are around me? If you're looking at your orbit and you're saying, these are the people that are going to get me to my next level in life, congratulations. That's a rarity. To have people in your life who aren't family be in your life for so long that they're intertwined with your purpose in life. So congratulations. But what I really hope that you're being honest about is that that's a really true statement, that you're not just trying to be a nice guy or a nice woman in a situation that is going to hold you back. I believe that amplification comes from transitional changes. It doesn't mean that it has to be devastating, but it does mean taking into account where you are, where you want to be, and looking at what are the distractions, the deterrents, and the obstacles keeping you from getting there. I'm not a perfect person. I'm not on here giving my opinion like I have never made a mistake in my life. What I'm trying to do is the mistakes that I've made and had to learn from, or the mistakes from others who have told me their stories where they've had to learn. I'm hoping that you can learn before you make mistakes of your own. But I'm definitely the type of person who doesn't mind stepping out of people's way and letting them make the mistakes that they're hell-bent on making. But when you end up in the sunken place, well, you can only blame yourself. Anyway, a much lighter, sweeter, gentler word is going to come from AJ. So please listen to her entire message because it's powerful. And I hope it sparks conversation in your own orbits and gives you an opportunity to give yourself an introspected look, I should say, about what you need to get to your next level. Later, Martians.
Okay, y'all. Here it is. I'm giving it to you raw, just like God gave it to me. So this week in my consultations and in my devotions, a lot of focus from Spirit has been about boundaries, setting boundaries, and people just not respecting boundaries, personally, professionally. So if you're going through that, here's what God told me. First of all, it's not good enough to just set boundaries. You have to live the boundaries. Right now, what happens if somebody doesn't honor or respect your boundary, it's because you've lived a life, that shows them your boundaries are flexible and wavering. And your boundaries have to be, oh, come on, Jesus. Your boundaries have to be as steadfast and as straightforward as your faith and the belief you have in who you're supposed to be when you live in the boundaries. Man, listen. Then I started saying, okay, I get that part, but it can be so uncomfortable because a lot of people just don't honor boundaries. And God said, yeah, but the boundaries are not for other people. The boundaries are for you. I'm asking you to set boundaries because the elevation I have for you requires you to live in those boundaries. So the comfort's not going to come in you setting the boundaries. The comfort is waiting for you on the other side when you live within the boundaries. Are y'all following? Oh my goodness. So Woo! This week, we have to practice not just setting boundaries, but living within the boundaries. You have to teach people who you are, how you are, whose you are, by the boundaries you set and live in. Amen?
I don't count the plays, make the plays count. I don't count the days, make the days count. I don't count the bands, make the bands count. I don't count the haters, make the haters count. Came from the bottom, I appreciate everything. Came from the bottom, I appreciate